For 18 long years, the land of Israel lived under a quiet, grinding humiliation. Moab, an ancient neighbor and sometimes enemy, had crossed the Jordan, seized the city of palms, and imposed itself as master over the people God had delivered from Egypt. Scripture says, simply and starkly, "The Lord strengthened Eglon, king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done what was evil in the Lord's sight." This single line in Judges carries the weight of a nation's spiritual collapse. Israel had drifted again, into complacency, into idolatry, into the slow erosion of covenant loyalty. And the consequence was political subjugation. Tribute caravans moved regularly from Israel to Moab. Grain, oil, wealth, produce, everything symbolizing the fruitfulness of God's land was now a reminder of Israel's failure. Ancient Near Eastern tribute wasn't only taxation, it was humiliation. Each delivery announced, "You are not free." Eglon, the Moabite king, established his power through alliances with Ammon and Amalek, tightening the net around Israel's heartland. And as the years passed, the people cried out, not because they discovered new strength, but because their strength was gone. The book of Judges follows a rhythm: rebellion, oppression, desperation, and then deliverance. And this time, deliverance would come from a man no one expected. The text introduces him without ceremony: Ehud, son of Gera, a left-handed man of the tribe of Benjamin. For the original audience, this detail was striking. The tribe of Benjamin, Benjamin, literally means son of the right hand. The right hand represented strength, authority, blessing. To be left-handed was unusual and culturally marginalized. Yet in the book of Judges, the left-handed Benjaminites appear more than once as skilled fighters. Some scholars suggest deliberate military training. Others point to possible impairment or restriction of the right hand. The text doesn't explain why, only that Ehud's left-handedness would become the turning point of a nation. When Israel prepared its tribute for King Eglon, Ehud was chosen as the representative. It was a dangerous assignment. Approaching a foreign ruler meant submitting to searches, scrutiny, and the risk of summary execution if anything appeared suspicious. But Ehud did something bold. Before leaving, he crafted a weapon, a double-edged dagger, a cubit in length, short enough for concealment. He strapped it, not to the left thigh where guards expected a warrior's blade, but to his right thigh, the blind side of a left-handed man. He wasn't seeking personal vengeance. He wasn't chasing glory. The narrative suggests something simpler and deeper: a man responding to the cries of his people, aware that the moment demanded cunning as much as courage. The tribute reached Moab. Eglon received it. No one noticed the hidden blade, but the real moment would come afterward, on Ehud's return journey as he reached the carved stone idols near Gilgal. Scripture says he turned back. Some scholars describe this as the moment Ehud recognized the spiritual heart of Israel's oppression. Those idols, symbols of the very thing that had brought judgment, Ehud turned around and walked back into danger. He stood before Eglon again and spoke the only line of dialogue Scripture records from his mouth. Eglon, described as a very fat man, likely emphasizing not ridicule but indulgence and decadence, rose from his seat and dismissed his attendants. In the ancient world, prophets often brought private messages. Rulers sought omens, divine insight, or intelligence. Scholars note that Eglon likely expected a revelation, not a blade. But Ehud reached with his left hand, drew the hidden dagger from his right thigh, and struck. Judges describes the event with unusual physical detail, the blade disappearing fully into Eglon's body. The king collapsed. Ehud closed the doors, locked them, and walked out, passing the guards before they realized anything had happened. The narrative does not linger to sensationalize. It simply moves with the quiet, steady pace of judgment fulfilled. The Moabite servants, seeing the locked door, assumed the king was relieving himself, an ancient euphemism that may indicate the architectural layout of royal chambers. Their delay gave Ehud time to escape, cross back into Israel, and prepare the next phase. When Ehud reached the hill country of Ephraim, he sounded the ram's horn. The shofar was not only a call to war, it was a declaration that God had acted. Israel rallied around him, not out of tribal loyalty, but out of the certainty that deliverance had begun. They seized control of the fords of the Jordan, the natural choke points between Moab and its homeland. In ancient warfare, geography was destiny. Blocking the fords meant cutting off reinforcements, escape, or counterattack. Scripture says Israel struck down about 10,000 Moabite soldiers, all stout and strong men, not because Israel had become stronger, but because Moab had been crippled at its head. Then comes the quiet end. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest for 80 years. 80 years, nearly a century of peace, born from the courage of one man whose difference became his strength. Ehud's story is not merely a tale of violence or political reversal. It is the story of a God who uses the overlooked, the underestimated, the unlikely. A left-handed man from a right-handed tribe became the instrument of liberation because he stepped forward when no one else did. And now the question circles back to us. In an age of moral pressure, cultural intimidation, and quiet spiritual erosion, what unexpected strength in you, ignored, dismissed, or misunderstood, might God be calling you to use? And more importantly, where do you see the Moabs of our time? Forces that dominate through fear or apathy? And who today will be the Ehuds who stand up against them? Invite your audience to answer that question. It will bring comments, it will spark reflection, and it will make Ehud's story echo into the present.